Hey everyone, and welcome back to Token Talk. Now today we're going to be talking a little bit about ICP, just because ICP is doing something that is actually kind of surprising to me. So many people don't really know what's going on within the ICP ecosystem and how it basically solves like the majority of the problems that people have been talking about lately as far as like crypto's big issues to fix, right? I mean, you got to think interoperability, the fracturing of liquidity, cross-chain transactions, like all of this type of stuff, bridging. There's so many like hot button topics or like buzzwords that ICP realistically can handle already. And so I want to talk a little bit about that today. But before we get into that, let's go over and take a look at crypto bubbles. Now, as we can see, if you're paying any attention to the market today, we can see that it's been a very, very green day in the market overall. What we can see particularly is we've got a lot of meme coins doing really, really well. We've got, SHIB up, Pepe, Doge, Bonk. I don't think, these are all hidden behind my camera, but we've got Brett down in here. We've got Whiff right here, Floki. So, I mean, there's a lot of, I would say, good sentiment within the meme market today. But overall, I mean, just kind of everything is up. It's been one of those green days. We are green hourly, daily, weekly, monthly, yearly. So, I mean, basically it's all green everywhere, all around, which is good, I guess. But, usually, at least to me, that means we might be seeing a pullback here pretty soon. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. But for right now, obviously we'll take the gains while we've got them. Moving on, if we look at the ICP chart, I want to take a look at kind of what we've been seeing. So obviously, if we zoom out a tiny bit, we can see that we've been sitting in kind of a multi-month long wedge that had been forming. We have since broken out. Oh, also keep in mind, this is on the daily chart, but we have since broken out. We got rejected by this level of resistance that we saw here. We actually have at least just barely temporarily broken through it. We are seeing kind of that wick here, which means we may be getting rejected again by this resistance. If that is the case, we might see another kind of drop down. We may see a drop down to this support level. It's hard to say, but overall, this kind of remains to be the next point of resistance that we are trying to tackle. It is proving to be somewhat stubborn, as we can see by kind of testing it over the past couple of days. We'll see if we can break through that. If we do break through it, again, we would want to see price start to kind of settle on this and form a level of support, kind of like we see up back in here. If that doesn't happen, not the end of the world, but I do think overall that the price momentum of ICP is looking relatively good, and we should see this break eventually. If we look at the Bollinger Bands, part of what we can see here is ICP is kind of repeatedly testing the top of Bollinger Bands, and so I think this is what's causing such a stiff resistance at this point, is because usually, if you guys are familiar with Bollinger Bands, we don't often see price come too far out of these. We can see, to the downside here, we saw a little bit, but as we saw, I mean, they pull almost essentially right back in. And so if we were to see something break out, I would imagine, we'd pull right back in again. So I think one of the healthier things that's happening here is we are seeing this kind of consolidate at this level. And so anyway, that's kind of where we're at so far. So it's looking pretty good. I think the longer we can hold at this level, obviously the Bollinger Bands will start to pull up, and then it'll give us some more flexibility to break through this level of resistance and hopefully form a point of support. So also, if you guys are interested, you can see I'm doing all of my charting on Margex. That's because I have been trading on Margex relatively consistently recently. You can see I did actually take a Bitcoin long, probably about 12 hours or so, that is actually up and doing really quite well so far. So, obviously, things are looking pretty good, especially when we see a lot of green in the market and you can hit those, 100x leverage plays. You do usually see some pretty impressive gains pretty quickly. So if you are interested, please do check the link in the description below. There is no KYC or VPN required when using Margex, which is really nice because you can essentially just get signed up and get started. Also, they do up to $10,000 in deposit bonuses, which is kind of a nice incentive to get started in trading. So anyway, if you are interested, like I said, just click that link and it'll take you over to the site and you can get signed up and all that type of stuff. So as I say, basically in every video, leverage trading is risky. It is dangerous. So if you don't know what you're doing, just be very careful. It is a great and easy way to, I would say, make a lot of money, but it is also an equally great and equally easy way to get wrecked. So if you are going to do it, just be careful. Make sure you're being responsible. Moving on, I did want to check out the RSI heat map, because what we can see, and overall what we're trying to figure out, is where are we at on the market sentiment? Can we actually hold this kind of sustained upside pressure that we've seen? And if not, are we looking at a pullback, win, all that type of stuff? while predicting a pullback is notorious, or I guess I should say, while predicting when a pullback is going to happen is notoriously difficult, it's usually pretty simple to see when one is at least expected to happen at some point in the near-ish future. And what we can see on the 24-hour metric of the RSI heat map, most of the market at this point is essentially moving into the strong end. Even more and more are moving into the overbought territory the further we go along it, and kind of the higher the market goes, right? What we can see is, 12-hour, same type of thing. We're actually getting even closer to stuff being in the overbought. 4-hour, same type of thing. However, if we do look at the week though, we are essentially still kind of recovering on the weekly from a lot of the fear that we have seen. So we are sitting more kind of in the neutral territory. So, short term, essentially what this is meaning to me is I'm thinking that, potentially short term, we could see price either start to stall out, or maybe even come back just a little bit, but maybe not too dramatically, just because from a weekly perspective, we are still in a relatively healthy spot. So that's kind of what things look like to me, at least currently. Now, the next thing I wanted to go over is something that I post on my Twitter account, actually from Tap Protocol. Now, this is the thing that I actually think is massively important for ICP, because as some of you may be aware, there has been a lot of development on Bitcoin layer 2s recently, and this has essentially kind of led to a gold rush of like trying to be the one to like get an L2 figured out on Bitcoin. Obviously, this presents plenty of issues because Bitcoin is not a Turing complete language, which essentially means you can't use if statements, which makes it notoriously hard to code on Bitcoin. However, Bitcoin is still Bitcoin. It's got $1 trillion of market cap, which means an immense amount of liquidity, which effectively means that if you can figure this out, like you're unlocking a gold mine of liquidity and value and all of this type of stuff. And so what Tap Protocol has actually done, if we click into this, we can see that they've actually partnered with ICP to essentially help develop Bitcoin smart contracts using Bitcoin. Now, keep in mind, I said using Bitcoin, not on Bitcoin, right? Now, the difference here I would say is somewhat moot potentially, but it is an important difference to know. But also I think it's actually super cool because ICP is effectively what would allow the value unlock of so many different chains, both cross-chain as well as within something like Bitcoin. Now, how they do this is through this thing called cross-chain signing and chain key cryptography. So ICP actually has developed this function called chain key cryptography that allows internet computer to actually, it's like an API almost, you could think. And it allows the ICP like smart contracts essentially to reach into other chains and do things on their network. And so one of the things that we can see that ICP has actually released recently is it's called a CK-BTC. And it's kind of like wrapped BTC, but it's a little bit different in the sense that ICP has actually reached into the Bitcoin ecosystem and like locked up Bitcoin within a wallet that the ICP API has access to. So it is essentially like a directly collateralized Bitcoin, but it's not like wrapped Bitcoin or any sort of like bridged Bitcoin alternative where it's sitting in this massive honeypot of like liquidity that hackers try and attack. Obviously, we know bridges are kind of the juiciest target for hackers to hit. And so, there is a level of risk when using that technology. And so what ICP has done is their chain key technology or their chain key cryptography has allowed essentially the like individualized bridging of stuff. And also what we can see is you have native Bitcoin smart contracts because it allows using ICP's very robust and very well built out smart contract technology within Bitcoin because of the API connections that they have, which is really, really cool. And so what we can see based on this protocol, Tap Protocol, is they've actually partnered with ICP to essentially allow the building on layer 1 Bitcoin because they have like a direct integration into the Bitcoin ecosystem, which is really, really cool and really interesting. And so this is something that I think really could shake up both the development on Bitcoin as well as just cross-chain development overall, because what we can see, ICP is actually looking to solve this problem with ETH as well. And I think this problem on ETH is actually becoming more pronounced with all of the layer 2s that they develop, because as ETH develops more and more layer 2s, essentially the liquidity becomes more and more fractured. And so this is something that becomes an increasingly massive problem over time, because the more you fracture liquidity, the harder it is essentially to like really have some of this crazy price growth and value accrual that you normally would, just because all of the value is kind of, it's like siloed in different pieces, right? And so this can be quite a problem. So hopefully this quick deep dive into ICP was helpful and useful. I can tell you there is a wealth of information to go over concerning the Internet Computer Protocol, We will be continuing to go over this on the channel. Hopefully, you did like it. If you did, please do leave a like and subscribe to the channel. We are trying to cover a wide variety of tokens in more detail and provide you guys some value, just kind of introducing you to the wider crypto space and hopefully some of these cutting edge innovations that are going on throughout the entire crypto industry, not just focusing in on one particular chain or one particular ecosystem or one particular narrative. We're trying to keep kind of a broader context on what is going on in the crypto industry. Also, if you have any comments, questions, concerns, anything else that you'd like me to dive into more specifically with Internet Computer or anything for that matter, please do leave a comment as well. We do try and respond to all of our comments. We definitely read all of them, but we also do try to respond to all of them as well. So if that is something that you are interested in, please just feel free to leave a comment and we'll be trying to get back to you. So anyway, thanks for joining us on Token Talk, and we'll see you in the next video.